Rehabbing a vintage Coach Willis bag, part 4. Go back and watch parts 1 through 3 if you're new here, so this will all make sense to you. Now, when we last left our bag, she was drying outside from a bath. Here's what she looks like the next day. She's still about 80%-ish damp. The first thing I'm going to do is flip her over so that the other side of the bag can get more air exposure. And then I'm going to take out any towels that I have inside at this point so that airflow can get inside the bag as well. Getting maximum airflow to all parts of the bag is crucial in making sure that it dries out properly. And you can see here I'm inspecting the pockets. Everything looks so much cleaner than how we first started. At this point too, I'm going to start introducing the first round of moisturization. I'm going to grab my leather CPR, and again, with the bag still somewhat damp, I'm going to begin massaging in the product all over the exterior and anywhere there's finished leather. I learned this from other Coach girlies on the internet who like to massage leather CPR while the bag is still damp into the leather because it helps the product get into the pores of the leather and get the moisture deep into the different layers of the leather. Now, this product is safe to put on your hands and apply directly to the bag, but if you don't want to do that, you're more than welcome to use a towel or use some gloves and massage it in that way. But massaging it into the leather is kind of key because this is what helps start to put suppleness back into the leather. I've obviously sped this up for the film not to be hours long, but you really want to take your time and do every single surface on the leather bag here and massage the product into the leather. If you bathe a vintage Coach bag and you don't use a product to put the moisture back in, like leather CPR, you're going to end up with a bag that gets stiffer as it dries. But adding moisture back in with a product like leather CPR is what keeps the leather soft as the bag continues to dry out. I also keep getting comments on my videos about bathing a bag that has a wooden dowel across the top, which is that pole across the top of the bag where the handle connects. And I want to reiterate again that we're not soaking these bags for very long at all. If you saw part 2 where I bathed my bag, you'd see that. Coming into contact with water or moisture is not in and of itself going to make leather moldy or wood moldy for that matter. You really need to have a prolonged period of time in a specific environment for things like rot and mold to thrive. And we're not going to be providing that environment in this process. Even if you were to do a cleaning method like saddle soap or leather CPR or a combination of those, the leather is still coming into contact with moisture during that process. We're just adding a little bit more moisture by bathing the bag, but we're also taking that moisture back by drying it out thoroughly like you see here. This is what the bag looks like after the application of leather CPR. The leather is still pretty dark because it is still damp and wet, and then we've applied the product on top of that as well. So again, we're going to leave it out to dry. I want to show you the inside though before we move on. I do leave a little towel in there to make sure that the bottom shape holds as it continues to dry, but it just looks so much cleaner than how we started. I'm going to continue to let this dry outside since it's such good weather today. But if you can't dry your bag outside, drying it inside is fine as well. It might just take a little longer. You'll know with lighter color bags that they're fully dry because the color of the leather will change back to how it was originally. Now, here we are the next day, just doing a little bit of an examination to see where we're at. Still have some scratches and things to deal with. Some things won't come off, and the goal of this rehab isn't to make the bag perfect. It's just to improve it as much as we can to get it ready to list and flip for a profit. While my bag is drying, I like to work on hardware, which I did in part 3, and definitely check out part 3 if you'd like to know how to clean and polish the hardware and get that ready for the bag after you've moved through the rest of this process. But evaluating your bag at every stage is going to be important for you to decide what step you need to take next. I'd like to do another application of leather CPR at this point, so that's what I'm going to do. If you have a really dry bag or a really stiff bag, an application of leather CPR can be done again. And I like to let the leather breathe in between applications. So this could mean after you apply it, let it rest for a couple of hours to overnight to even a day or two later is totally fine. And again, getting it into all of those high touch areas and areas that are exposed to air, like the binding, more than the rest of the parts of the bag, it's really important to get those moisturized and make sure that you're massaging the product in while you are applying it. I like to think of leather CPR as like applying a moisturizer after you've cleansed your face or your skin. You apply a moisturizer to start adding that back in. Here we are the next day, and it's looking really good. Even more of the marks and scratches have gone away from that second application, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to the rest of this process. I've also worked on the handle off camera, cleaned out a lot of the verdigris. That does have heavy patina on it, so that's not going to go away, but I did clean it and moisturize it. Next, I want to clean up a little bit more inside the bag. You can use either of these products by Angelus. They're easy cleaner or their foam cleaner. They're perfect for using on suede. And if you have a suede brush, that is ideal to help lift up the nap of the suede. I'm just going to apply the foam directly and then use my suede brush to rub it in and get that nap lifted up. In this particular area of the bag, it gets touched a lot by people's hands, so it's got a little bit of dirt there that I'm working on. I'm not going to be able to improve the look of the suede entirely, but I'm just going to get some of the dirt and marks off in this process. That didn't come out in the bath. It's like some spots on the bottom here. I'm just going to work this brush all over, and you can actually even work this as a dry brush without any product. Just again to lift up the nap again and lift up any kind of debris or dirt that might still be stuck to the suede. Here I'm doing the inside of the flap, and don't worry if it looks a little patchy or splotchy after you've done this process. It's going to dry completely fine. This is a very gentle cleaner. It's not going to hurt the suede at all. Next, I'm going to move on to more like finishing touches. I'm going to use the jewelry polishing cloth to clean up a little bit of verdigris on the inside zipper and just rub it all on the zipper teeth just to get any additional verdigris. I'm going to burn off any threads that are loose or hanging in different areas of the bag. And then I'm going to move on to my conditioning stage. I'm going to use the Lexol conditioner. You could also use the Furniture Clinic Protection Cream, another one of my favorites, whatever you've got on hand here. And you're just going to apply this again to the whole exterior of the bag. And this product is again going to add to putting more moisture back into the leather, also help protect it from debris and dirt and dust and things like that. If this were a skincare routine, this would be the step after you've applied your moisturizer where you applied your serum, and it kind of locks in all the moisture and all the good stuff that you've already added back into the leather. By the way, all the products that I've been using in all of my rehab videos are linked in my Amazon storefront, or you can find some recommendations on my website, excessbaggage.com as well. Both of those links can be found in my profile link tree. And if you've appreciated this content, if you've learned anything, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my Instagram subscriber group. Go ahead and like, follow, and share. That really, really helps me out in continuing to make content like this for you guys. Back to the rehab. Remember, you might not be doing all the same steps that you see me doing here. Please take what you need and leave what you don't. There is no 100% right way to do a rehab, and every bag is going to have different needs, and the leather is going to be in a different state. So again, go ahead and do what you feel is best for your rehab project. I'm just showing you my best practices, what works for me, and what I've seen good results with. So here you see me going on with this conditioning process. I didn't forget the straps. Those got conditioned and cleaned as well, and also the top handle. And if your bag has straps and things like that, make sure you hit those up. The next step in this process for me is going to be buffing, and you're going to see short clips of me doing that here in different directions on different parts of the bag, but I did it, of course, a lot longer. than you see me doing here. And buffing really helps get the product into the pores of the leather. It also helps buff out any marks or scratches that are still left on the bag. And you can really just go as much as you feel you need to get the leather as buffed out and shiny as you'd like here. I'm using a horsehair brush, which sounds super fancy, but these are actually widely available at like national grocery store chains. You can also find them on Amazon and by other companies that do leather care products. If your leather starts to look a little dry or scratchy, that would be the time to stop. And again, do not fret. We are going to follow up this step with another final step that's going to help moisturize and lock in moisture again to the bag. So here's what the bag looks like after I finish buffing it. And remember, I buffed it for a lot longer than I'm showing on camera. It does look a little bit dry in some spots, like that back corner there, but do not worry. We're going to follow this up with one of my favorite products to finish a rehab with, and it's called Black Rock Leather Enrich. This product is formulated with waxes, so that's why it's always my very last step in the process, because it does kind of leave a very light waxy residue, and it can also darken lighter colors. You only need a little bit of this product. I'm using pea-size amounts and working in sections. You don't want to go too heavy with this because it'll take much longer for the leather to absorb the product. After you apply this product, the leather is going to feel tacky and a little sticky to the touch. Do not worry. Let the bag sit overnight, even for a day or two, as long as it takes to absorb the product. It will absorb the product and then it'll be drier to the touch again. The waxes in this product are going to help moisturize, seal in that moisture, but also leave that light wax coating on the very surface of the leather to continue to protect it as you go ahead and use the bag again. And here's where we leave off. I'm going to let this sit overnight to absorb everything. And remember, I use very, very little product, so it doesn't take too long to absorb. I think this is a good point in the process to remember where we started with this bag, because again, it's not going to look perfect. It's never going to get back to the pristine condition that it was originally. And some bags do rehab better than others. This one was pretty beat up and in bad shape when I got it, as you can see. So I thought this would be a good point to just go back and take a look at that footage again, so that when we come back the next day and we look at our bag, you can see we've actually come pretty far and the leather is dry to the touch at this point. Now, depending on your bag and the state of the leather, you might want to do a second application of Black Rock. That's up to you. I'm pretty happy with where we ended up. I think we are ready to put our polished hardware back on this bag and get it listed. And again, it's not going to be perfect, and I will call out any imperfections that I see in my listing. But for now, let's get back to the hardware. So here's all the hardware that we polished in part 3. I'm going to start by putting the turn lock back onto this bag. And as you can imagine, I'm going to do that by reversing the process that I used earlier in part 1 to remove the turn lock. I'm going to push the prongs back through the slots that are already on the tab gently, and then I'm going to add the washer back on the underside of the tab. And then I'm going to use a hard surface like a scissor or the flathead of a screw to press the prongs very gently and slowly back into place. You don't want to force anything here because the hardware can crack and break, but most of the time that's not an issue. This is one of my favorite points in the process because putting the polished hardware back on the bag instantly levels up the entire look and vibe of the bag. No matter how much of a transformation your bag has gone through, that clean, crisp, shiny hardware, chef's kiss. It's going to make the bag instantly level up. That's why it's worth it to spend the time to really polish up your hardware. Now we've got the front grommet back on. Let's put the turn lock portion back onto the bag. I pushed it through the slots on the front pocket here, and now I'm just going to apply the back washer. And again, this is the reverse process of how we took it off. Just going to use a pair of scissors here to just gently push these prongs back into place. Next step after this is reattaching the top rings to the dowel. So we've got our rings and our dowel. It doesn't matter which ones you pair with which rings, just make sure that the ring's larger side is pointing towards the front of the bag, because that side is going to get the front of the post that has the little slot for the screw head. So you can see here, I'm showing you the direction I'm going to be pushing it through the dowel. So it goes through that front ring, in through the hole that's already in the dowel, and then out to the back. Push it till you feel some resistance, and then at that point you're going to begin to turn the post like a screw so that it screws into that back part of the ring. It pretty much aligns itself, I find, so don't worry too much about that. Just go ahead and start screwing the post in. I'm speeding it up here for the sake of time. If you need a small flathead screwdriver, I'm going to have a similar one linked in my Amazon storefront. Now I'm going to show you what this looks like after I screw in the post. First, I'm going to show you the back of the bag, and then I'll show you the front of the bag. So there it is on the back, and here it is flush in the front, and that's exactly what we're going for. Now we need to repeat this process for the other rings, but the two in the middle have to incorporate the top handle. So make sure that you put the ring in through the loop of the top handle before you attach it to the post. And just going to repeat the same process that I just did on the first one. And then you guessed it, we're going to repeat this process again on the other side of the handle, making sure that we again put the ring through the loop in the handle before we attach it to the top of the bag. For me, this really is one of the most satisfying parts of the process. I love to see how good the hardware looks on the bag again, and the bag having been cleaned already. It just, everything's coming together at this point, and all your hard work is paying off. So love to see that. Then finally, you're going to add back your long crossbody strap that you've already cleaned, the dog clips on each side. And here is the final reveal of the bag. Now, you may recall that when we first started on this bag, she was a lot drier and had a lot more scratches and marks on her. And even though she still has spots and marks on her, she's a lot improved from where we first began. And of course, she's a lot cleaner on the inside and the outside. She's still got that weird mark on the corner there. And of course, a lot of heavy patina. Patina is buildup of the oils in your hands on the surface of the leather, and it's going to darken the leather in all the areas where you touch it frequently. And some people really love patina because it shows that the bag's been used and handled and well loved over the years. This bag's got a lot of it. It also forms a protective layer against mold, which is why it's important to handle your bags regularly and of course maintenance them yearly with some kind of conditioner and cleaner. Here's a 360 view of the full bag. If you've been with us from the beginning, thank you so much for following along in the series. I hope that you learned something and that you're inspired to take care of, rehab, and maintenance the bags in your collection or bags that you might flip for a profit. I'll see you guys in the next one, and as always, happy thrifting.